I mean, at the moment, I think I have the Guinness World Record, the most sued actor in history.
There are people who make you laugh. And then there are people who make you uncomfortable enough that you have to laugh, because the alternative is confronting something about yourself you would rather not see.
Are you allowed to date other members of the team, or do you have to wait till the season is over?
What?
He has been banned from entire countries, chased out of hotels, surrounded by furious mobs, taken to court more times than most people have had job interviews. And yet, every single time the dust settles, he walks away. Not just intact, but proven right. This is the story of a man who built a career out of making the world reveal itself. And the world has never quite forgiven him for it.
It had a certain hardness to it. It wasn't just sort of silly jokes to people in power. It had the aim to undermine those in power.
Before we get to the lawsuits, before we get to the chaos, before we get to the moment a sitting US politician screamed profanity on camera without realizing it would end up in a television show, we need to go back to where it all began. Because nothing about what this man became makes sense unless you understand what he was before any of it.
Yes, you must. My name is Borat. You want to have a drink? You can't drink there while you're driving. It's against the law. What?
Sacha Baron Cohen grew up in London in the early 1970s. On the surface, an ordinary childhood. A Jewish family. A good education. A quiet, bookish boy with a tendency to observe people rather than perform for them. Nothing suggested the hurricane that was coming. Nothing suggested that this particular child, raised with an awareness of history's darkest chapters, would one day weaponize absurdity as a tool for social truth.
No, in Kazakhstan we shoot animals. We love animals too.
Why'd you shoot them?
For fun.
He went to Cambridge, studied history, wrote his dissertation on the American civil rights movement, examined how ordinary people become complicit in extraordinary cruelty. Sat with the question that would quietly drive everything he ever created: what do people really believe when nobody is holding them accountable? He found his answer in the most unexpected of places. A clown school. After Cambridge, he trained under a French performance teacher named Philippe Gallier, a man famous for one central doctrine, that the most dangerous thing a performer can do is be sincere in their stupidity. Not performed stupidity. Not winking stupidity. Real, committed, unshakable stupidity.
Let's try and get a solution, right? Will you, the Palestinians, agree to give the pyramids back to the Israelis?
This is in Egypt, not in Palestine.
I don't care where you put them. Give them back.
The kind that lowers every guard in the room. The kind that makes people forget they are being watched. Cohen absorbed that lesson completely. And then he went further with it than anyone had dared to go before. His first major character was not Borat. It was not Bruno. It was a British roadman named Ollie G.
You reckon the better the footballer you is, the fitter the girl you go out with?
A tracksuit-wearing, gold chain-sporting parody of youth culture who had absolutely no idea how ignorant he sounded and absolutely no intention of finding out. Ollie G was loud. Ollie G was ridiculous. Ollie G asked Buzz Aldrin whether men would ever walk on the sun, and whether going in winter might help because the sun would be colder then. But here is the thing about Ollie G that most people missed while they were laughing. The joke was never Ollie G. The joke was everyone around him. Because when powerful people, politicians, celebrities, professors, military officials, sat across from this obviously absurd character, something happened. Their guard came down. They stopped performing their public selves. They stopped measuring their words. And in that unguarded space, the truth came out. Not always ugly truth. Not always shameful truth. But real truth. Unfiltered. Unmanaged. The kind of truth that public life is specifically designed to prevent. Cohen had discovered something profound. Stupidity, performed with conviction, is one of the most effective tools for exposing intelligence's failures. Ollie G became a phenomenon. A television show. A film. A cultural moment that nobody quite had a category for. Was it satire? Was it prank television? Was it sociology? It was all three, and that made the establishment deeply, deeply uncomfortable.
Yes, some of my comedy, okay, probably half my comedy has been absolutely juvenile.
But Cohen was just getting started. In 2006, he released a film that would cement his place in the history of both comedy and controversy. A film built around a character he had been quietly developing for years, a Kazakh journalist named Borat Sagdiyev, who had come to America to make a documentary about the greatest country in the world.
What type of dog is this?
This is a tortoise.
Is this a cat in a hat?
For 1 year, Cohen traveled across the United States as Borat. He attended rodeos. He visited driving schools. He crashed etiquette classes and college fraternities and political rallies. And the people he met, real people, none of them in on the joke, revealed themselves with a completeness that no scripted film could ever have captured. Because Borat did not ask people to be racist. He did not suggest it or lead them there. He simply created a space where they felt safe enough to already be what they already were.
You look like Michael Jackson Beat It.
He was foreign enough to seem unthreatening. Ignorant enough to seem non-judgmental. And in that space, some of the most disturbing social truths of early 21st century America surfaced with almost no effort at all. The film was a global phenomenon. It was also a legal catastrophe, at least for everyone who tried to sue him. Fraternity members. Driving instructors. An entire Romanian village that had served as Borat's fictional Kazakh hometown. The government of Kazakhstan, which banned the film outright upon realizing that the rest of the world was now deeply familiar with a fictional version of their country that involved plastic bags and outdoor toilets. The lawsuits came in waves. They came from individuals who felt humiliated. From institutions that felt misrepresented. From powerful people who could not believe that a man in a gray suit and a mustache had somehow extracted their worst selves on camera and then shown it to millions. Every case was fought. Every case was resolved. Not one fundamentally stopped him. And that, perhaps, is the most important detail in this entire story. Because Cohen's legal record is not a list of scandals. It is a list of validations. Every person who sued him was, in some way, confirming the very point the film was making. That the ugliness was real. That it had not been invented or manipulated. That it had simply been revealed. 3 years after Borat, Cohen transformed again. This time into Bruno, an Austrian fashion journalist of staggering self-confidence and zero social awareness, whose entire existence was built around provoking the one particular discomfort that Western society had spent decades carefully learning to perform its way around, homophobia. Bruno did not confront homophobia with arguments. He did not debate it. He walked directly into the spaces where it lived, conservative television programs, cage fighting events, military ceremonies, Middle Eastern conflict zones, and simply existed there, unapologetically, until the people around him revealed how they actually felt. He asked parents whether their infants would be comfortable operating heavy machinery for a photo shoot. He staged a cage fight that dissolved into a makeout session in front of a crowd that had not been warned. He traveled to the Middle East as an openly gay man to explore what peace might look like if it were brokered by someone wearing a mesh top. The courage required for these sequences is difficult to overstate. Cohen received death threats during production. He was physically removed from events. He placed himself in situations where genuine violence was a real and present possibility, not a theoretical one. And he did it not for shock value, though the shock value was undeniably there, but because the reactions he was capturing could not be obtained any other way. Comfort makes people polite. Discomfort makes people honest. By 2012, Cohen made a different kind of move. He took his satirical instincts and applied them to a fully scripted film, The Dictator, in which he played a fictional Middle Eastern tyrant attending a United Nations summit. On the surface, it was a broad comedy. A farce built on cultural stereotypes and elaborate misunderstandings. But buried at the film's center was a monologue so precise in its political analysis that it has since been quoted in academic papers and university lectures. Imagine, the character says, if America were a dictatorship. Where 1% of the population controlled the nation's wealth. Where politicians served corporations rather than citizens. Where the media existed not to inform but to frighten. Where the poor were kept distracted while the powerful grew more powerful. The crowd in the film laughs. The audience in the cinema laughs. And then, a few seconds later, a few of them stop laughing. That gap, between the laugh and the silence, is where Cohen has always worked. In 2018, he returned with the most technically ambitious project of his career. A television show called Who is America, built around multiple entirely new characters, each one designed to expose a different stratum of American society's contradictions. A liberal professor. An Israeli counterterrorism expert. A conspiracy-soaked right-wing media figure. A Scandinavian philanthropist. Using these characters, Cohen convinced real lawmakers to advocate for arming toddlers with firearms. He convinced real citizens to publicly oppose the construction of a mosque in their town, while simultaneously praising the construction of what he told them was a luxury resort, which was, in fact, the same building described differently. He got a sitting state representative to perform a sequence on camera so embarrassing that the man's political career never fully recovered. During the production of Who is America, Cohen wore a bulletproof vest to work. Not as a metaphor. Not as a precaution. As a necessity. The death threats were that specific. The anger he was generating was that real. More lawsuits followed. An Alabama official sought $95 million in damages. Others followed with claims of manipulation, defamation, and emotional distress. Cohen's legal team handled each one. The case is resolved. Cohen continued. There is something worth sitting with here. Because the standard criticism of Cohen's work, the criticism that has followed every project, every character, every lawsuit, is that he is manipulative. That he deceives his subjects. That he lures ordinary people into situations they did not consent to and then exposes them to global ridicule. It is not an unfair criticism. It demands a serious response. The response Cohen has given, both in interviews and in the architecture of his work itself, is this: he is not inventing behavior. He is not coaching it or scripting it or editing it into something it was not. He is creating the conditions under which behavior that already exists becomes visible. The racism that surfaced at the rodeo was not placed there by Borat. The willingness to arm children that emerged in Who is America was not manufactured by Cohen's character. It was already there, waiting for a space safe enough to express itself. This is the distinction that matters. And it is the distinction that has kept him, legally and morally, on the right side of every fight he has entered. Beyond the characters, beyond the films, beyond the spectacle, Cohen has spent the last decade engaging directly with the forces he spent his early career exposing through comedy. He has delivered lectures at major universities on the mechanics of disinformation. He has challenged the leadership of the world's largest technology companies in public forums, arguing that their platforms have become the most powerful propaganda infrastructure in human history. He has made the case, with the seriousness of a policy expert rather than a comedian, that the same viral mechanics that made Borat a global phenomenon are being used to spread ideologies that his grandfather's generation fought a world war to defeat. He said once, in a speech that was widely shared and widely ignored by the people it was directed at, all this hate and violence is being facilitated by a handful of internet companies that amount to the greatest propaganda machine in history. He said it not in character. Not as Borat or Bruno or any of the disguises. He said it as himself. Which, for someone who has spent his entire career hiding behind masks, is perhaps the most remarkable thing he has ever done. There is a version of this story in which Sacha Baron Cohen is simply a provocateur. A skilled one. A courageous one. But ultimately a man who built a career on discomfort and controversy and then walked away while others faced the consequences. That version is incomplete. The more accurate version is this: he identified, early and clearly, that the truth about how people think and what they believe and who they become when nobody is watching is almost impossible to access through conventional means. That journalism could not get there. That documentaries could not get there. That political speeches and academic papers and polite public discourse could not get there. But a fool could. A fool with a microphone and a camera and the absolute nerve to keep asking questions until the answers became undeniable. He built a fool. Several fools, in fact. And through those fools, he got closer to the truth of his time than almost anyone else working in any medium. The most sued actor in history. The record stands. The lawsuits are a monument, not to his recklessness, but to how many people he made uncomfortably, undeniably, unforgettably honest. Some people make you laugh. And some people make you wonder why you laughed. And then, if you are paying attention, if you are willing to sit in that strange, unsettled silence after the credits roll, they make you wonder what that laughter says about you. That is the question Sacha Baron Cohen has been asking for 30 years. He is still asking it. And most of us still do not have a clean answer.